Hey there, gang. Lauren here, Mrs. Tomato Head, and I haven't done a garden walkthrough with you guys yet. I don't know what's been preventing me from doing that. Probably because I'm not done planting, to be honest with you, because I've got a million micro dwarfs, a few dwarfs left to put in. It's been a little crazy. We had that frost last week. We did get some damage on a few plants. And just, the past couple weekends, we've had a lot going on. So I'm trying to grab those precious gardening moments whenever I can. Um, but I'm leaving you guys hanging, and I've had many people request to see a garden tour. So I'm going to take you on a brief one right now, just to show you all of our planting spaces at this point, where we're planting. I'm not going to go through every variety because that's going to be a longer video, and I really want to make sure everything's planted before I do that. So let me take you on. I live in rural New Jersey. Yes, there is such a thing as rural New Jersey. We are the Garden State. It's not like The Sopranos. I can hear the music in my head. Woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. It's not like that where I live. Houses are, well, you can't even see our neighbors. They're there, but they're not on top of each other, which is really nice. We live on about an acre and a half. We're about 10 minutes away from the Pennsylvania border, sort of central and west. And we love it here. We both, Rob and I, Mr. Tomato Head and I, went to high school here in the area. We're in beautiful Hunterdon County, New Jersey, which is known for farms and lots of land and all that. And so we loved growing up here, and we wanted to settle down here and raise our kids here. And now our kids are older and they're gone. Our daughter is Riley. She's 27. She lives in Manhattan, and Jake is just turned 25, and he's out in Pennsylvania. So they're gone, and so now it's just Mr. Tomato Head and I. And honestly, it's once we became empty nesters that the tomato game really got amped up for us. Those of you that have kids, that when they're young, you don't have a whole lot of time to just tool around in the garden all day long. Like we want to, right? We all want to. If you're watching this, you're a tomato head and you want to also. So now I do I want to say my day job. My day job is not really a job. I run a community on Facebook called Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain. I've run it for the past 9 years. I live with chronic pain myself. I have lupus and fibromyalgia, among some other neurological things, and I know I look healthy, but a lot of us have invisible illnesses, and what you see on the outside isn't necessarily what you get on the inside. But I've been feeling pretty good lately, so I'm grateful for that. And my community is really based, speaking of grateful, my community is based on finding joy in our lives despite life struggles such as chronic pain and illness. We have over 11,000 members. It's a very engaged group, so it keeps me busy. It's a full-time job, and I love it, and it's volunteer, so it's not anything I have to do. It's what I get to do. But what I get to do keeps me very busy until for at least 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 5 starting in the morning. So, and that's when I get to come out here to my lovely oasis of gardening. And so this year we added a few more beds. So let me take you along and show you where some of the things we've got planted here. So along here, now we started growing in grow bags a few years ago, and we had some indeterminates here last year, and we just staked them going up along the deck. This year we decided to do dwarfs there. In fact, this is really our first year doing dwarfs. We've grown a couple in the past. We grew one last year. The Russian name I cannot pronounce, but it's Russian pepper stripes. That was a dwarf. And then we have a compact variety we like called Little Napoli. So we grew those, but the dwarf world, the dwarf tomato project, although I knew about it, I've never embarked on it. So as you can see, we've embarked. So we decided to do dwarfs there this year. I still have several that need to be planted. I'm hoping to get to that today. So we've got that over here on our deck stairs. These little guys, these are 2-gallon grow pots, and I was having some micro dwarf issues with a couple varieties. This is Golden Hour by Wild Boar Farms, and another Wild Boar Farms, Mini Marzano. They just weren't doing well. With Golden Hour, which is I was very excited for, I grew 5 plants. All of them got and from different seed lots, all of them got some kind of, I don't know if it was a disease, but they yellowed, leaves fell off. So I'm giving one last ditch effort on this guy. Can I get in close here? It's hard to see with the sun. Yeah, he's got a lot of bright green on him now, so I've got hope. So I potted to these 2-gallon grow bags. That's mini Marzano, and here is Tartufo, which is just a gorgeous plant, if you can see those tomatoes. So, so I just decided to throw some tomatoes up there. Up on the railings, you can see I've got these white aluminum pots. I'm putting micro dwarfs in there. Last year, the only micro dwarfs I did were Orange Hat, Vilma, Aztec, and Tiny Tim. And now that I'm doing this micro dwarf project, for those of you that are new to me and the channel, I'm attempting to grow every micro dwarf. I want to review them all. I want to study the different growth habits of them, and I also want to share it with my community, Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, because I want people to know that can't leave their house or their bed, that there are options for you to get the benefits of gardening without leaving your home. And so I'm trying to grow them all in smallish pots, like 6-inch, 5-inch. But I'm also noticing that some just don't do well in 6-inch. You know, even this one here, you can see it's pushing it. So I'm getting to see firsthand, you know, which ones will do well and which ones don't. And one of my jobs, many jobs that I've got going on, is I need to up pot several of them. All right, so micro dwarfs up there. I've also got some, let's go up on the deck first, I guess, before we get in the yard. So here I've got some peppers, not done planting the peppers. Got some hanging varieties I'm putting in these. This table is full of things I still have yet to plant. And if that's not bad enough, so is down here. I've got a bunch of micros over here that are looking really, really good, and some that need to be up potted. So, you know, gardening is a lot of trial and error, and those of you that have been doing it for a while, and or even if you're new, you'll notice that even I've been growing tomatoes for 30 years, and I still make a lot of mistakes. It's constant growth. It ebbs and flows. Some years you're going to have a good year. Some years you're going to have a bad year. And I like to think that we grasp onto lessons as we go along, and then we add them to the following year. Yeah, so I'm learning that with the micro dwarfs, that I've got a whole, this station, it kind of looks like death because those are the ones I need to up pot. I've got some more golden hour, some, you know, some do just fine in the pots. You know, this little guy Muhammad's doing great. Micro Tom, Venus, what else? Baby, Nina Neutron. They love the smaller pots, but some of them really need something bigger. Ken Fry from Forgotten Heirlooms, who's a friend, and I highly recommend getting seeds from him. He grows all of his micros in 1-gallon pots, so I've got a stack of them over there calling my name. Got a green stalk here. No tomatoes in this one, just kales and stuff like that. My husband and I eat plant-based. I find it helps with my pain, believe it or not. I noticed this a couple of years ago. So, so growing our own food, while I can't grow all of our food, I try to grow as much as possible. So yeah, I'm dying to take it. These are a couple dwarfs, very new dwarfs, because, you know, I can't just stop on March 5th when we sowed the rest of the seeds. I've got to keep going. Over here, I've got another green stalk that is in the works. I've got some Chinese pink celery down here, which is just gorgeous. I don't even like celery, but this is just so beautiful. And then over here, I've got some lovage. But the rest of this is going to be micro dwarfs, and I did start yesterday. This is Garden Pearl, or Golden Pearl rather. Who's this? Snegger Jock, that's a nice small one. So that's going to be, I actually would love another one to just do all micro dwarfs. In fact, I could have done it in this one, and I kind of decided not to. You will not see an inch of railing that isn't filled with these railing planters. I found these last year. They're great. Going to put a couple micros in those. I'm also growing some lettuces over there. Lots of lettuce, although it's starting to get hot, so lettuces won't do well. But I'm going to stick some like extra duplicate micro dwarfs in there. Got some kales over here. The kales don't really like it. They need something bigger, but it's good to put in salads and stuff. All right. Ooh, this I'm proud of. I tried growing lavender from seed this year. If you've ever grown lavender, you will know that it's really difficult. You need to do something called cold stratifying. And what that means is you need to put the seeds before you even plant them, put them in the refrigerator for a month. And I guess this tricks the seeds into thinking that they went through the winter. And that's what lavender needs. I believe strawberries, they recommend that too. So I tried it. I put some seeds in the refrigerator, I believe in January. And then in February, took them out, tried to germinate, waited, nothing. So I was going to give up, and then I got a different variety of lavender from Baker Creek. This one's called oregano. Looks like oregano, but it's oregano, or however you pronounce it. Did another month cold stratifying, and look, I got lavender, and I had I had three that germinated. I gave a couple away. Oh, and I grew this nasturtium too. Very pretty. I'm doing more pollinators this year. In the past, I've just been like, tomatoes, and some basil, right? And last year, I started incorporating more vegetables, and this year is the year of pollinators. I'm growing all kinds of things. I've got milkweed growing over here that I started from seed to attract to feed the monarch butterflies. I've got some cosmos over here. I've started some zinnias, lots and lots of zinnias that I've got to plant. So and borage. We did do borage last year in the in-ground bed, which I'll show you. And I don't know if it's a myth or what, but apparently it keeps tomato hornworms away. The dreaded enemy of any tomato lover is the tomato hornworm. And I will tell you, we didn't see any over there. Coincidence, maybe. I don't know. But apparently they don't like borage. So, and it's a perennial, so it comes back. So I've got some planted over here. So this is our in-ground bed. This has been here since prehistoric times. No, really, we used to have our garden all the way, let's see, can I get it? All the way down there behind where the shed is. Because when we moved here in 1994, there were no trees at all. It was just big sprawling space. And so we planted a lot of trees along the perimeter, and now, almost 30 years later, the trees are big. It got too shaded back there. So I don't know how long this has been here. Maybe 10 years we've done this in-ground garden. There are 21 in-ground spots. I know, when it comes to tomatoes, I'm like, my memory's really good. 21 in-ground spots, and then on the ends, we're flanking it with some grow bags with other varieties. So, I had intended on being more organized and mapping out where we were going to put things this year. And then when it came time to plant, like I said, we've been so busy that it was just like, all right, we've got half an hour, let's plant things. And I'm like, so there is really no rhyme or reason to what we planted and where, except the very first things we planted. This was the first week, and it was pushing it with our frost date, but we're like, let's put our cherries in the back row, our cherry tomatoes. And, if we lose them, at least it's only cherries. Not that we don't love cherries, we do, but it would be a lot easier for my heart to handle losing a cherry than it would be like one of our favorite indeterminate, our big eyes, our slicers. So this back row is cherry tomatoes. They're looking really good. We had a frost. I think I already mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned it here or not, but we had an unseasonably crazy frost last Thursday. Today is, what's today? Wednesday. last Thursday. We had warning ahead of time that it was going to be a frost, and it was our son's birthday. So we took measures, everything we had in the grow bags, all the dwarfs, and then I'll show you some other grow bags we have too. We were able to move inside. That was no big deal. And then others I had for our tiny, tiny ones, which I'll show you in the new beds. I have these, I believe it's pronounced cloche, Cloche. I had those and I could put them over those little guys. I was concerned about them. I thought with them being so small, they may take a big hit. And then I also have these pop-up greenhouses. And, you know, I have many. I couldn't, not enough to, you know, for all the in-ground spots. But Curtis Cheek, who's over here, for those of you that have grown Curtis Cheek, he has a bad rap. Not the tomato itself is supposed to be the best tomato you've ever had, but incredibly difficult to grow. And I noticed that I started the seedlings early. We had 3 plants. They looked terrible. They look like they're dying. And my friend Jen, who has grown it before, and she's become a good friend, we have same taste in tomatoes. She told me it's going to look dead. Don't give up. And it did. It looked dead. But you know, then I planted in a 10-gallon grow bag, buried it very deep, and it's now looking great. So I thought if I have limited time to cover things, I'm covering Curtis because I worked hard for him, and he's doing great. All right, so 21 in-ground spots, and then what do we have? 6 more with the grow bags, so that's 27. Over here, we've just got, I planted some peas, snow peas. There's some beans coming up. You know, those other vegetables we don't care all that much about. Here's the borage that came back in this grow bag. And this is blue borage. This thing's a tough plant, and not much can take that down. Very pretty though when it blooms. Over here we got 2 new beds my parents gave us for Christmas. These are Birdie's raised beds, which Kevin from Epic Gardening promotes quite a bit. Nothing going on in here. We planted potatoes in here. Of course I want to use every spot for tomatoes, but we figured, you know, to maximize, to get more efficient, more food, we would plant potatoes in here. These will be done, well, they haven't even come up yet because we planted them very, very late. So maybe August we'll be able to harvest these potatoes, and then maybe some fall crops can go in its place. So love those Birdie's beds. I want more. And then Mr. Tomato Head, who is just the most wonderful tomato head and love of my life. He said, let's, you know, I'll build 2 new raised beds. And I was like, oh, so here they are. 2 new raised beds he built. And we got over there, we've got, am I showing it? Yeah, it's kind of behind the wagon. Actually found a local place that had a mushroom compost topsoil mix. They call it their John Adams mix. And the miraculous thing about that is not only did it sound perfect, but there isn't much local to us. And it was a local farm that had it, or garden center that had it. So I was grateful for that. So these, we got 16 in each one of these. So that's another 32. And you may notice looking at some of these, we got some damage from the frost. Most of them I think will be fine. You know, we got some black, like this is Berkeley pink tie-dye. And we got some black on the ends here, nothing terrible. This, I actually took the foliage off yesterday, so it looks really bad. This was Uptown Funk, which ironically, there are 2 varieties that I was most excited to grow this year out of everything. And we've got, I think, nearly 100 varieties with the dwarfs and all that. Uptown Funk and Del Nerpio Verde. Here's why. Our favorite all-time tomato is Malachite Box. Otherwise, that's the English version, but it's Malachitovaya Shkatulka from Russia. It's a green when ripe. We do a blind taste test every year, and we've grown it for 2 years, and it has won hands down both times. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. Those of you that are afraid to grow green when ripes, you are missing out. Let me tell you, you are really, really missing out. We did Aunt Ruby's German green last year too, and that was very good, but nothing compares to this yet. Our second favorite tomato is Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye by Brad Gates from Wild Boar Farms. That tomato, it produces early, at least for us, produces early, disease resistant, very prolific, gorgeous, and delicious. It's just delicious. Uptown Funk is, I think it might be Blaine Horton's cross. I might be might be wrong about that. He crossed Malachito Via Shkatulka and Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye, so it's a cross of our two absolute favorites. So when I heard about that, I'm like, Uptown Funk, man. The second one I was most excited about was a variety I found out through Badskin's Garden called Del Nerpio Verde. And on a Russian website, it's another green one ripe. Looks just like Malachito Via Shkatulka. And I read a review in Russian that said something like, I used to think Malachito Via Shkatulka was the best green one ripe, but Del Nerpio Verde surpasses it. So those two, so I had to try it. Of course, I ordered the seeds from Badskin's Garden. And so out of all of these tomatoes, we've got, what do we have? 21, 27 over there. And then 32 here. And then we've got a bunch in the grow bag. So like nearly 100 tomatoes. The most damage went to Del Nerpio Verde and Uptown Funk. I can't believe it. Del Nerpio Verde, I think, will recover. This one, I'm not so much. I'm not so sure, rather. Thankfully, I have an extra of this that we're growing in grow bags over there. Thankfully, because it's still painful to see this. I won't lie. It's painful to come out here. I took all the dead foliage off yesterday. I pruned it, gave it, I see some new growth way down here. Am I showing it? Yeah, it's tiny, but it may take a while, if at all. The stems themselves are very green. And I don't know. I've heard crazier stories. My dad had lost one to frost last year, so we thought, and then it came back stronger than ever, and I've read that on the internet. So we've decided rather than replace it, we're going to leave it here and watch. And I'm recording the progress, so we shall see. But even this Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye here you can see some frost damage on the ends, but nothing, maybe they're set back a little bit, but not a big deal. The weird thing, though, is that, like, this Uptown Funk was huge, and some of the really, really little ones were fine. It's weird. So I don't know rhyme or reason. Is it a God thing? I'm going to take down the tree you're most excited about. I don't know. I do not know. But again, trial and error for the tomato lover. So loving digging these raised beds so much. Oh, look, we've got a Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye coming here. Oh, yes. I'm a happy girl. All right, so then this next section over here is what I call my garage tomatoes this year. So we've got these 10-gallon grow bags. And the reason is, so we sowed our seeds on March 5th. And Mr. Tomato Head said, I think this is too early. And I'm like, we did it this early last year. We've got to do it again. What I forgot, or selectively forgot, was that I stunted their growth last year by overwatering. So they were set back, oh gosh, a week at least, maybe even 2. This year I did not do that. So they grew like crazy. So next year I'm going to wait until the end of March for sure. So some of these were just really, really big. They totally outgrew their solo cups. Even putting them in the 9-inch seedling grow bags that I do just wasn't cutting it. Especially this Esmeralda Golosina over here. She was a crazy one. Absolutely crazy. So big. So Rob and I were like, let's put a couple in 10-gallon grow bags. And we'll just bring them out during the day, as long as it's not too cold, and then we'll drag them in the garage at night. And that is what we did. I have to check the timing. I think it was about 6 weeks. But this is where I have an extra Uptown Funk, thankfully, and an extra Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye, and an extra Malachite box. Not an extra Del Norprio Verde, unfortunately, but that's okay. That's okay. We actually started more seeds that have already germinated, so if that other one doesn't recover, we'll be good. So we've got 10 of these guys that are looking fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We've got lots of tomatoes. Who's this? This is the healthy Uptown Funk, looking good. This is our variety, Bananas Noir. This is our accidental cross that we've given out to so many of our fellow tomato heads this year. Here's Rosella with some tomatoes. Chocolate Stripes is a new one for us this year. Well, that one, we thought we were growing chocolate stripes last year. I was giving it to them, giving seeds in, I forget if it was a trader from Etsy. I've had bad luck with Etsy on tomatoes, but it turned out to be Solar Flare. It was not chocolate stripes, and I hear great things about chocolate stripes. So that's the real chocolate stripes. Over here's Orange Russolini. We've got lots of tomatoes on this one. This I'd show, ooh, got a broken branch here. Get that right off. This one I chose because Luke from M.I. Gardener says it's the sweetest tomato he's ever had. You know, normally it wouldn't be the type of tomato I would choose. It's, I guess it's like a small Roma or a large cherry maybe, but he says it's fantastic. So excited to try that. Here we've got Honey Drop, which is supposed to be a non-hybrid, sort of better version of Sun Gold. Esmeralda Golden Golosina is a green one ripe. Another Berkeley Pink Tide. Oh, look, another tomato in Berkeley. Another tomato. I told you that one just produces so early, and then produces throughout the season. I just love that variety. And then Dark Queen, which was a gift I had ordered back, I think last fall, from Curtis from Renaissance Farms, and it was a free gift. I only had a few seeds, and then I gave seeds, more seeds to my friend Jen, who I mentioned, and I had a hard time germinating them, so that's the one we've got. So that's it. Oh no, we've got more tomatoes over here. That is not it. And there's more coming too. I will do a more in-depth tour. What is it? It's already 27 minutes long, and this isn't an in-depth. But I'm putting more dwarfs over there, and then of course more micro dwarfs up there. And then here we've got some like zucchini and cucumber. Got some beans coming. So that is the scoop. Oh, and then up there, I'm not going to go up there, but see up there? That's a little veranda off our master bedroom, and I've got, I don't know if you can see it, way up, there's a green or a gray planter. Can I zoom in? No, I cannot from this angle. There's a gray planter. You can probably see maybe a plant hanging down. That is a yellow tumbling Tom tomato. Really, it's supposed to have trusses that hang down. I'm really excited to see that. So, so that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed my garden tour, kind of piecemeal. Once I get everything planted, although, you know, in saying that, will I ever have everything planted? Because I tend to start new seeds and I tend to root new suckers. Don't know how that happens, but I do. Last year, I'm going to add this. Last year, I really went to town on rooting suckers. I'm a sucker for suckers, and I just think it's so super cool that you can clone a tomato plant by taking a sucker from the, you know, the armpit of a tomato plant, stick it in soil, boom, plant. I just think it's the coolest thing. So I went crazy on it last year, and Rob thought I was crazy, and I am. I'm crazy, I'll admit it. But I will tell you that those plants provided us with such an amazing, like a second season. Not that this, you know, the original season wasn't fine, but it was winding down. When this was winding down, the sucker plants were just gearing up, and, you know, it's hardly like we need more tomatoes, but, you know, having a fresh Berkeley pink tie-dye or malachite box, and what if disease happens, right? I mean, we had one plant, Opalka, last year was diseased, but everything else was fine. But yeah, so it's just so tempting, you know, when you have a big old sucker hanging out there. It's like, put me in soil. I want to live. I want to give you tomatoes. How can I say no to that? I can't. So anyway, thanks for joining me, gang. I hope you enjoyed this. I've got a couple micro dwarf reviews that are in the can that I just have to upload, and I will get to. But Just wanted to come to you today and say hi because it's been a while, and I will talk to you soon. Peace and love, and get your gratitude on. Bye, gang.